Greetings. This is a recording for the 2015 North American Systemic Constellations coming up, and my guest today is Dan Booth Cohen, who I'm sure you all know of, and he's going to talk about the history of the conference. So welcome, Dan. Thank you very much.
Yeah, welcome, Linda. I'm really glad to be talking to you again.
Great. So tell us a little bit about the history.
Okay, sure. So the U.S. conference grows from the conferences that were created in Germany when Bert Hellinger came into prominence in the 90s. He had been working mostly in the 80s and early 90s as a rather obscure sole practitioner in southern Germany, and then he had this opportunity to work in front of at a conference in front of a large group of people, and it ignited a kind of movement. What he was doing was so new and so potent that the psychology and psychiatry community in Germany got very excited about the work and wanted to learn more. So Albrecht Marr, Gunther Weber, and some others organized around this new modality of systemic constellations, a professional association, a journal, and also a series of conferences that Albert Marr organized. At the peak, there were over 2,000 people coming to these conferences on an annual basis. And as that work spread in the early 2000s, Hellinger himself really wasn't interested in leading a movement or being part of a professional association and professionalizing the work and making it such that people could be trained and supervised and practiced in a reliable and kind of organized manner. So Hellinger withdrew and continued to really just continue to do his own thing. And the original group of psychiatrists, psychologists, educators really stepped in with the German Association and Journal and kind of made the practice more professional, and they continued to organize the conferences. In around 2003, Jane Peterson attended one of these conferences in Germany, both the intensive that Hunter Beaumont and Lutz Bessel organized, and then also the conference that Albrecht Marr organized in Würzburg. And at the end of that conference, she had a meeting with some of these leaders, and they invited her to create a conference in the United States because they felt that the U.S. was a place with obviously a large professional community of therapists that the work would naturally fit in. And of course, the work originated in the United States with Virginia Satir, Milton Erickson, and others. And Hellinger had trained Arthur Janoff. And so they felt it was really be a fertile environment for constellations to return in this new form that Hellinger had modified from what had been originated in the US. So they encouraged Jane, and in 2005, she created a conference. Many of these German leaders came to kind of help her promote it, and she had a 2005 conference in Portland, Oregon, that was attended by a lot of the leading lights from Germany, and it was very successful. It was 200 people, I think, plus or minus, attended. And it really kind of launched people in the U.S. into thinking about every 2 years having a gathering for the community to get together, exchange what people were doing, learn from each other, network, and speak about some common marketing platforms, etc. So Jane did that 2005. She basically did it by herself. She had a few volunteers helping her, not very many, but it was really a kind of a solo effort, entrepreneurial effort that she did. And after doing one of those, anybody in their right mind would say one is enough, because it's a huge amount of work to organize one of these big events. All the details, it's just immense a number of details with the complexity of the schedule and all the presenters, etc. So she handed it off to Sheila Saunders, who lived in Asheville, North Carolina, and Jane lived in Portland. She had it in Portland. Sheila lived in Asheville, so she had hers in Asheville. She continued to feature the German practitioners. So she had, again, some of the leading practitioners from Germany came, and then there was a tier of US presenters as well. So it was a mix. Jane also had US presenters at hers. It wasn't only the Germans, but they kind of led the way. And Sheila's was a little bit smaller. It had more of a kind of a country feel to it. It was not only in Asheville, but it wasn't in the city. It was in kind of a rural part out of town. And so it wasn't kind of broadcast to a larger community. It was really more of the kind of the inner circle of practitioners from around the United States. People really needed to be motivated to make that trip. So it was a smaller conference, but again, it was very rich. It was intimate. It was a chance for people to network, to get to know each other, to share what different people were doing, and to also just, be in the field of constellations for several days, be able to go a few days with constellations without having to constantly answer the question, what's a constellation? So that was something really pleasant. At the end of that conference, keeping with the tradition, she handed over the next task of organizing the next conference to Dee, who was a practitioner based in the Midwest. And Dee began the process of organizing a conference for 2009. And then unfortunately, Dee got sick. She got cancer and was continued to organize a conference through her treatments. But the disease, it was a very aggressive cancer. And she did all, surgeries and everything. And unfortunately, the disease progressed. And there was a certain point where she had to just realize she couldn't continue organizing it, that she'd really been depleted by the treatments that she was getting. And so she stepped back. And at that point, the effort really stopped because she had been, it had been in this tradition of one organizer. And when she had to resign from her position, there really wasn't anybody in a position to take over. So the organizing committee basically dispersed and disbanded, and it seemed like there wouldn't be another conference. So there was some discussion amongst that organizing team. People were kind of feeling burned out because people had put in a lot of work into the organizing and it hadn't come to fruition. So there weren't a lot of people that felt motivated to kind of take it on, start from scratch, which was what was necessary. And I recognized that there are certain situations where circumstances are thrust upon people that are not something, they're not really motivated in that direction, but the circumstances kind of dictates a need to step forward. So I recognize that there wouldn't really be a conference unless it was kind of felt to me to either just let the thing pass or to kind of step in and organize another conference. So I did that in 2010 for a 2011 conference. And this time we decided to do a team of people. So we had myself, Carolyn Zahner, Barbara Eggenberger, and Gary Stewart. The four of us got together, and we created an entity to sign the hotel contract, to take on the liability for the hotel contract, and then the four of us organized. And again, there's fits and starts, and for the team to fit together and decide the roles. We had to do everything from scratch, from the website to the URL name, the logo, the color scheme, find a location, everything. It was really very labor intensive, but we worked at it very hard. In 2011, we had a conference in San Francisco. It was 280 people. It was the biggest and it represented an evolution of kind of advancing from the prior efforts. We had a very elaborate program, a lot of presentations, over 50 presentations, and I think it was very well received, and again, gave an opportunity for people to come together, see what other people were doing, network, and feel some support, because a lot of practitioners maybe there's only one or two people in their community that are working. We tend to be dispersed around the country. There's a few pockets of places where there's a real community support. But for the most part, people are working individually. They're because of the nature of the work, it attracts introverts more than extroverts. It's not something really to beat the drum about. It is something for people who are contemplative, quiet, still, accepting what is, kind of, more Taoist oriented than Confucianist oriented. So it's great for those people to be able to get together and actually see that there's hundreds of other people that are, thinking the same way, having the same type of experiences in the field, advancing the progression of the work in different exciting areas for some of the senior trainers to get together and be able to share notes and expose their innovations to people that they wouldn't meet ordinarily. So it was really very successful. And at that point, things started to roll. There was a call for another conference. So that was 2013 in Seattle. A new organizing committee came together, this time with 8 people on the organizing committee, and everybody put their ideas in, and there were twists and turns as always. The economy was seemed to be catching up a little bit with people. It was a little bit smaller. It was about 250 people, but still, a substantial effort, and things came off. Everybody showed up. All the presentations happened, and people seemed like they had a really great time. We had some really powerful sessions, a lot of good exchanges. Good to, at this point now, see people that from past conferences, meeting new people. It was really a wonderful event. And for 2015, the coming year, I'd been involved. I'd been the co-director of 2011, 2013, and circumstances dictate people step up in certain ways, but I'm not that great at the fine details of organizing fine details. So and I'd already done 2. It felt like that would be enough. I mentioned the fine details, but because the organizing team this year, there's another team, a steering committee, and co-directors, James Wober and Lisa Nips are the co-directors, and then there's a steering committee, and then there's a whole host of volunteers, you, Linda, and I lost track of how many people. It's probably 20 people. And people have just this incredible, exquisite eye for detail, just that we're having this conversation videoed, you're speaking to other people, it's going to go on YouTube, it'll be on the website. It's just, such it's a great idea, and to be able to execute it, it's indicative, reflective of the way that this conference is being organized. The registration numbers are way ahead of where we had been before. We have the most beautiful venue, this Bahia by the Bay, right on the water in San Diego. We got a great deal from them. The room rate's low. The facility's beautiful. Really lovely meeting rooms, and it's going to be probably going to sell out. We'll certainly be over 300 people, just based on the registrations to date. We're close actually now to selling out. So for people that are interested, definitely register. And there's also these price tiers that are normal. So you want to, get in now at this discount price before the next price bump. And it's just going to be, I'm so excited about it. I'm really excited to not be organizing it. I'm thankful for all the people that show up, that lots of details and little fine points that really escape me are being handled impeccably. And for people that are interested in Constellations, whether you've trained or you're facilitating or a trainer, if you're a trainer, you definitely have to be there, or a facilitator, you really have to be there to just get some exchange with what's going, some inspiration. It's, there's still a learning curve for practitioners in building their practices, and this is the place to see what's working, what languages is being used, what are the new kind of little wrinkles on the process that people are putting in, how they're thinking about promoting in different communities, and you can meet if you need training or want additional training. All the trainers are there. You get to meet the trainers, and if you are looking for a program. So I'm totally excited, pumped about it. I think it's going to be a fantastic event, and really grateful to you and the whole team for organizing it, and a conference that I can show up to. It's a great treat for me.
Well, thank you, Dan. That was so interesting. I didn't know some of those details.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Oh, look, 15 minutes.
oh yeah, we're up.
That's it.
But I do want to mention that you're giving a presentation on Friday at 2:30
Mm-hmm.
with Emily Bolden, and the title is See with Your Heart, Live Your Purpose and Love Your Life. So
Yes.
we'll see you at that one. And we're also going to do a second video on your perspective of the future of constellations.
Mm-hmm.
So we look forward to that also. Thank
Great.
you very much, Dan. Have a great day.
Thanks, Linda.
Okay, take care.
Okay, bye.